Hi, welcome to a new episode of Just a Jeju Girl podcast. And this episode, it's my 14th episode. And here I am back in Yongin, in my small apartment after the New Year's holiday. And everything seems normal. And this episode, so normally before I start thinking about the new episode, and normally I would open up my Notion app and then write down whatever pops in my head and just write everything that I possibly can, so I can kind of sketch what the episode is about, at least before that I start yapping, basically. But this episode is quite personal and very emotional. I already told you guys that I'm a very emotional person, that I feel very deeply from the last episode. But I think this episode can be one of the most personal, most emotional episode that I can possibly upload. Maybe there can be more emotional and more personal stuff that I might upload in the future, but at least from now, it's because as you can, I don't know if you guys have like recognized and kind of read what the topic is about. So the title is called "We All Grew Up in Love," and it's a phrase that I just came up in my mind very quickly as I was spending my time with my family back in Jeju, and I really wanted to share it with you guys, not with my friends or my family. I just wanted to share it in my podcast, in my personal space, because I thought I think it's a worthwhile idea that a lot of people might enjoy listening. And also I think this episode can be more influential and emotional for people in their early 20s or in their teenage years. I don't know if there's any teenagers listening to my podcast. I think I'll be genuinely surprised if there is one, because how did you get here? So as 27-year-old corporate job worker, and went through some things in my life that not many 27-year-old women would go through. They are definitely a realization that I thought I would have in my 27th year of my life, because so first of all, even though I've uploaded 13 episodes in this podcast, like I don't think I've mentioned this story of my life, which is I had to tell it anyway, and I think it's one of the core elements of who I am right now, myself right now in 2026, is that my mum passed away 4 years ago. It's already 4 years ago, I can't believe it. So my mum passed away 4 years ago. She died from cancer, ovary cancer, and my family discovered that she was diagnosed with ovary cancer when I was 19. I think I was 18. Yeah, I wasn't, maybe 19. It was after my birthday or before the birthday. Never mind. It doesn't matter, does it? So we've discovered that my mum was diagnosed with ovary cancer when I was 18, 19, and for my brother, even younger, of course. He's 2 years younger than me, so he witnessed that his mum going through a tragic moment in her life, one of the most influential moments in his life as well, when he was only like 16, 17. So sometimes I feel worse acknowledging the fact that my brother experienced this when he was in high school. So anyway, so my mum passed away when I was 18, 19, and she was already on stage 3, which is quite bad. And when I first heard it, I remember I just went outside, I really had to, because I really, really hated the air of that pressure, that desperation, that devastation, that depressive air in my house. I just hated it. I just had to get out. And I went out. I just went to the park. Yeah, just a small park. I don't even know if you can call it a park because it's tiny and there's barely any entertaining stuff that can be called as playground or park. So I went there, and I remember I called one of my friends who is a nurse, and she told me some couple of things that I should be aware of, like in a medical way, because she's a professional nurse, so she was being professional but also loving and supportive at the same time. So I remember calling her, and after the call I just couldn't stop crying, and I was objectively young, but I was definitely emotionally young, definitely. And I didn't know how to cope with it. I just had to let the emotion out. But at the same time, because I am the eldest daughter, I think I had that innate, how do you call them? Like, innate, those visceral gut feeling that I should be an eldest daughter, like who I am. Like, I should act like eldest daughter. I guess it's an Asian thing. I don't know if that's just, if every eldest daughter in the world feels exactly the same, but I just felt in my gut that I should be the eldest daughter who I am for most of my life, like all of my life. And I just thought I shouldn't be emotional. I shouldn't burst my emotion out. I should burst it right now in the playground, in where nobody's there. So quiet. I even remember the smell of the air in that playground. It was quite hot. It was in the middle of July, and so I collected myself from that playground, and since then I had to be an adult. Basically, I had to be a grown up, and it doesn't mean I was mature. I wasn't mature at all. I was still very young, and I was still kind of learning what life is. And it was the first year of university, and I was going through a lot, friendship-wise, education-wise, and, growth in general. And I was just about to enjoy the freedom of being a grown-up, where you can drink, where you can just spend a whole night outside with your friends without no one, like none of your parents are telling you to come back home early, because I was far away from my parents, and it was my first time living alone without my family. So I wasn't mature at all. I was learning life, but at that exact time that tragedy happened, and I think that was the moment that I changed, the whole perspective about familyhood changed completely. And since then, like I told you, my perspective of family changed completely, and that perspective and that insight of familyhood and that concept of family, it fluctuated. I don't know if it makes sense, but I'm trying my best to articulate it, is that it went up and down, like simultaneously and continually, because sometimes I would feel very positive of my family, but sometimes I would have very mixed feelings about my family. And there was also a time that you can't, like, particularly exactly say what side are you, what do you feel about the family. Is because if you go through such tragedy and upheaval in life, and going through some times where someone they used to trust and depend on for all of your life became the weakest person that you've ever known. That transition, that me witnessing that transition was breaking my heart and brought me a huge pressure to be an eldest daughter and to be mature by force, because it was inevitable. Like, if your mum's sick, then most of children of those mums or dads are reluctantly and inevitably have to become an adult. And I was that. And, it's not the worst kind of scenario, because I was technically a grown-up, because I was 20 years old when my mum was diagnosed with cancer in Korean age. So in Korea, when you're 20, it means you're objectively an adult. Like number-wise, like age-wise. It doesn't say that you're mature and you're adult by your psychological age. Being 20 means a lot in Korea, in Korean age. So if you're 20 in Korean age, it means that you're 18 or 19. So yeah, like being 20 means a lot, and technically you're an adult, but you're still like fourth year of high school, basically. You're learning life. But if you go through that tragedy in that turbulent age, think like it changes you a lot. And one of those changes, oh my god, I can think of at least like 20 or 30 elements that influenced me and changed me like completely after my mum was diagnosed with cancer. But that should be a whole different episode, so I won't talk about it, at least now. And one of those changes was that my perspective about family changed, which is directly related to today's episode. Is that when you see how your mum, who is the person that you've relied on and depended on and loved the most for your whole life, goes through those tragedy, those pain, and those desperation and devastation for years and years, your perspective about marriage, your perspective about familyhood, what kind of daughter should I be, what kind of mum should I be in the future, it kind of makes you feel about it kind of makes you imagine and think about my future inevitably, because I don't know why, but it just makes me wonder about, what if this happened to me as a wife? Would my husband be supportive as my dad? You know, that kind of sort. Because you see in a real life very clearly about what's happening. And I really didn't know how to handle and cope with it from like the first 2 years, I think, maybe 1 year. I think I was very rebellious. I was in a very rebellious era of my life, and I didn't know how to handle it and cope with it. And like I said earlier, like your perspective about family changes a lot during those tragedy, those memories of witnessing your loved one going through such pain. And so I think right after my mum passed away, the first feeling that I felt about my family, except my dad and brother, right? I'm talking about the family that is not like not my direct family, right? Except my mom, except my dad and my brother. I can't articulate why I felt that. I just felt like there's no one to trust in my family. And there is a couple of consequences, and there was a couple of situations that I can't exactly talk about it right now, that made my mind, that kind of changed my mind to that. maybe I can talk about it later, but I think for me, just even talking about it makes me quite sad and very emotional. I don't think I can talk about it freely and in a manageable way in my podcast, at least now. So there were some events that happened to me that changed the whole perspective of family, and that made me hate my family members again, except my brother and my dad. And I think I got a bit rebellious, and I was kind of forcing myself to get better. I don't think I've made a room for myself to go through and heal what's been happening to me, because I was in such a rush to do the the graduation exhibition, because I studied architect, and every student in architect exhibition have to do a graduation exhibition, at least in Korea. And because my mum passed away a week before the exhibition, and I was going through, like, the work I was doing at that moment was the most important work that I should do as an architecture student, and it was one of the most crucial and influential era and moment as a student. But at the same time, I was going through one of the most tragic and one of the most devastating, one of the most scary era as a daughter, because you're literally in the process of letting go the person that you love the most in your life, the person that you've known since you were born, since you were not even a human. I mean, so because I was in such a very complex, mixed situation that I can't even articulate it now, and I had no choice to force myself to feel something very rapidly. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I was going through so much emotions and so much situations, so many stories, and so many people talking to me, so many people telling me what to do and what I should feel and what should I do, and it kind of made me to feel bad and kind of get disappointed with certain people inevitably, because I was forced to get better quickly and rapidly as soon as I can. And again, one of that changes was my perspective of family, and somehow it made me hate family members, except my brother and my dad, like I say again. And I think it was okay. I don't think it was like hatred or anything. I think it was more like disappointment and indifference. I think it's more about indifference. I think I just wanted to run away from the emotions. I didn't know how to face that such massive emotion wave that is not, for me at the time, I wasn't capable of coping that emotion wave. And what I should do as a motherless child, and I didn't know how to manage life without mum, not in a toxic way, like in an objective way, because it was a person that existed for all your life but disappeared somehow she disappeared like in a few seconds. So I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to cope with that emotionally. And also, like, your perspective wise, it changes everything. And yeah. And because I was so, I guess I decided to be indifferent to my family members. There was a time in my life that I kind of hated them. I don't know if hate is the right term, but is the best word that I can think of it right now. So there was a moment that I hated my family, right? Like I said earlier. And I had to get it out. I had to manage my life. I had to kind of clean up the mess in my life in order to be okay, and in order to heal from what's been happening for the last 5 years. She was in pain for 5 years, and she was gradually dying in those 5 years. And I think those 5 years was the year of my life that I was gradually letting go of my mum, I didn't want to accept it. I didn't want to acknowledge this fact that I was gradually letting go of my mum in those 5 years. I think I was gradually practicing about how life is going to be without my mum. So after my mum passed away, I tried my best to heal, and that backfired me to hate my family members. Not in an actual way, do you know what I mean? Like, I think it was more like avoidance in order to be okay. It was my strategy. It was my survival strategy to be okay. Outwardly. Like, inwardly, I was still in pain. I was still not able to completely let go of my mum. At least acknowledging and accepting the fact that she's gone. It took me several years. And so the reason I'm saying this, the reason that I used to hate my family members, and now I'm literally talking about the topic which is called We All Grew Up in Love, is because I had a huge realization during the New Year's holiday. And in Korea right now, right? During, I think it was after COVID that everything changed. Is that before COVID, we Koreans used to do a traditional ritual that you celebrate your ancestors. There's a ritual, I don't know what it's called. It's called 제사, which means you kind of prepare the food, and there's a ritual for those ancestors, and families all gather, and after that ritual we eat together. And it's more like family gathering rather than it's not purely for ancestors, it's for family. And I believe the reason they did it is because they had to make an excuse to gather their family and eat something good, eat delicious food, because there was a time that Korea was the poorest country in the world, and I think because of that excuse, I think a lot of families would make an excuse to gather and talk about what's been happening to them and share food, because everyone was poor, everyone was struggling with food shortage. So I think that was a good excuse for them. That's what I heard from my dad and my mother about 제사, the reason that why we do it, actually why we do it, not the outward reason. So because of that, a lot of Koreans would gather and eat food together during the holidays, especially the New Year, what we call 설날, and Chuseok, which is like a Korean Thanksgiving day. And those 2 days we gather and we eat food together and we share news about each other. And you know what? Every time I go to those family gatherings, family holidays, and meet up, because my family is very, very traditional, we still gather. I think 80%, 90% of Korean families don't do 제사 anymore, because it's so energy demanding. It is very demanding. You have to cook the food, you have to gather, and even though it's one of the very few national holidays, people would rather go outside of Korea and travel. So even in Jeju, which could be one of the most traditional areas in South Korea, we are less and less gather and celebrate or do the ritual during the holidays. But since my family is very, very traditional, and we still cook almost everything, so of course so what my family would do is that before the actual day of the new year or Chuseok, all the women in the family gather before the day and cook the food for the next day. And I've been doing that since my mum got sick, because I'm the eldest daughter, and I willingly told my dad that I wanted to do it because I knew that. So my dad is fourth son of the 5 brothers and sisters, and there are 4 sons and 1 daughter, right? Which means there are 4 daughter-in-laws who's gonna cook the food. And since my mum can't go because she is sick, there's 1 person missing. And I just felt like I had to do it. I had to take the role and just, nobody forced me to do it, but I knew that I had to do that according to my moral compass, I was following my moral compass because I knew that my mum has been doing that for 20 years at least, being a daughter-in-law. So I would go there every year, every holiday or Chuseok, and every time I go there, I just realize new things every day. I just realize that my grandparents are getting older, like objectively older, very rapidly. Old people, they get old quite rapidly. Like, there is a stage in their life that they were in the past, they were gradually getting older, but there was a moment in their life they get very old very rapidly, like very rapidly. In just a few years, they get really old very rapidly. And so my grandparents, my granddad, he's 88, and my grandma, she's 87. And like, especially this year, I just saw my granddad looking so weak. His energy was kind of a bit lower than what it was in the past few years, and I could feel that, and of course also my grandma, and I just felt weird, and somehow I was flooded with the fact that they are getting older, and there's nothing I can do, is there? There's nothing I can do. What makes it worse? Because it's nature, people getting old, people kind of leaving this world, and also me getting older, and to acknowledge that was quite painful, and to actually view and see them getting older, like losing their energy, was painful. But at the same time, I could feel that by spending time with my family members, my aunts, my cousins, my uncles, like even the distant relatives, I could feel that because of them, because of these people, they were the reason that I was able to grow up and be a human being. Like, I'm not the best person that I would have imagined 10 years ago, but still, I'm doing fine. I am doing what 27-year-old women should do. I'm earning money, and I'm doing what I can do as a hobby, and I'm working on myself, and I'm investing in myself. But that wasn't easy. And to be a grown-up like this, even though I'm not the best, even though I'm not like, renowned, I don't know, like scientist or influencer or entrepreneur yet, but I was helped by these people directly. Either it's directly or indirectly, because of their support and because of their loving way of supporting me and kind of sharing their ideas and kind of keeping an eye on me, basically, and laughing together. Like, even though we didn't say I love you directly, but I could see their love from their eyes, and I could hear that they're caring about me, that they care about me. And after I kind of moved to Seoul and began to work in a corporate job, I realized that there are very, very few people who really does care about me. It really does. It is quite brutal fact, but as you become a person who is working, out, like graduated college, graduate university, and making your own money, you kind of realize that from a certain point in your life, you are kind of surrounded with people who doesn't really care about me. The reason I was able to acknowledge that is because every time I go to my grandparents' house, I just realized that I was so surrounded with love by their support before I got out of this island, which is my hometown. And I could feel that transition. I could feel that difference so much, so strongly, that kind of made me sad and happy at the same time. Because now, at this point, finally, at age of 27, now I finally realized that I was hugely loved, I was hugely supported by these people. And whether there were some issues in my life that kind of influenced me to have some like fluctuation of emotions about themselves, I used to hate them and I used to be very, very indifferent to them. But after a few years of experiencing what world is like without family and friends from your hometown, and to be surrounded with people that really doesn't really care about me for the rest of your day, I think I'm finally realizing why people want to get married and have their own family. Because, like I said, at certain stage in your life, like you're suddenly surrounded with people who doesn't really care about me, who doesn't love you, of course, who doesn't support you. They would definitely not support you, because why would they? So because of that, I was able to experience that huge difference of that environment by visiting Jeju Island and visiting my grandparents for a few days. And during that 2 days actually, I spent one afternoon, like one morning and afternoon in my grandparents' house to cook the food for the ritual in advance. And I also had a night there. I also slept in my grandparents' house, my grandparents' house homes, because I wanted to hang out with my friend who lives nearby. So like technically 2 days, and during that 2 days, I just realized I grew up in this huge love and huge support and huge comfort from them. And I was so blessed to be born and raised in this family, to be loved in this family. So yeah, because of that experience, because of that moments, because of that 2 days in my grandparents' house and be surrounded with my aunts and uncles. By the way, I have 11 cousins. I have 11 cousins, and I have even more relatives that comes to my grandparents' house for the holiday, the New Year. So I have plenty of family, relatives, and again, I think growing up, I've never felt loneliness, right? Because I was always surrounded with people. I was surrounded with people who cares about me, who loves me and support me, and they wouldn't judge me about who I am. I really have no memory of them judging me and telling me what to do. And I think that impact my personality, being positive and be enthusiastic about life. So, yeah. So through that 2 days in New Year's holiday and spending time with my grandparents and my relatives and my cousins, I just had a huge realization, which is that I grew up in love. I was surrounded with love. I was supported. I was blessed. And that gave me a strength. This gives me a strength. I'm saying in the present phrase, because it is still influencing me very hugely, very, very crucially, that the love that I was given because of that love and support, it is still influencing me. It's still empowering me to move on and move forward and be who I am right now. Positive, inspiring, and looking for what I can do, right? So, yeah. And I thought you can apply that to almost everyone's life. I don't know your family issues. I don't know your family drama, or I don't know what kind of relationship, what kind of main relationship that you have right now around you. But I can guarantee you that even a slightest bit, that we all grew in love. We all did, didn't we? And it took me 27 years to realize that I grew in love, that I definitely grew up in love. I think it's kind of different to realization about your parents. I knew that my mom and dad loved me and supported me and appreciated me, never judged me, but this realization was quite different, because I thought my family member, my relatives weren't among that realization, because again, like, going through so many things after you graduate university, like facing that coldness of society for newly graduates. So from the office and how people view people, witnessing that you're getting less and less people are caring about you and loves you in a way that you've been loved in the past. So, yeah, it gave me a clarity that I was loved and I grew up in love. And again, I'm sure it can apply to most people, is that everyone grew up in love. And I thought this could be a very important and very precious moment in my life, that I should acknowledge it and accept it and cherish about my past and be thankful about my past, not being regretful or be resent on, and no remorse, definitely no remorse. So yeah, I just wanted to keep saying this phrase, that we all grew up in love and we should cherish it and we should remember that, and don't resent or regret your past or your family members, because you will regret it anyway, whether you've hated them or I don't know. Again, there's definitely gonna be exceptions, like what do you call them, like abusement or harassment at homes. I'm not saying that those were love, definitely not, but I know the context of what I'm saying. So yeah, I wanted to share that realization that I just had during the holidays. And again, it took me so long to realize it. And I really want to cherish this short moment in my life that I still have my grandparents with, and my dad healthy, my brother healthy, because I know human beings are innately vulnerable physically, and I know somehow those precious people, cherishable people, aren't gonna be healthy until they die. So I just wanted to make a moment that I'm gonna cherish this fact that I grew up in love, and I don't know if I'm able to do that, but I really want to give the love back and support back as I get older myself, but I don't know if it's possible. So yeah, right, I thought this episode is gonna be short, but somehow I guess I had so many things to talk about. So thank you for listening. I hope this story kind of resonated with you, and I want about your opinions as well. And remember, I wrote down my email address in my description, in my podcast description. So please, if you want to share your opinion or share your story to me, I don't care who you are. I don't care what kind of country that you live in. I just want to hear what my audience thinks about. I'm so curious. So yeah, thanks for listening, and I hope you will have a wonderful weekend, and I hope we can see you soon next week. Bye.